Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And the Plunderstorm has dropped, and it has a ton of rewards that are on a limited time frame. And it's super important to know what all of the abilities are available to you that you can gather and use against your enemies in order to have the most amount of success. I know for myself personally, I wish that I had this video for the first couple of Plunderstorms that I went into. It would have made them a lot better of an experience, and I would have saved a lot of time. So if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. So let's get started. The abilities are broken down into three categories. Basically, you've got your main damaging abilities that usually go on your 1 and your 2 keybind, your utility spells that go on your 3 and your 4, and then your major escape mechanism that goes on your 5. So the first one here is called Ambush. This is a really fun one. It's going to turn you into a bush. So if you notice pillars nearby or other bushes that you can kind of like cover yourself up in and hide away from your enemies, it can be really good when there's multiple enemies around you and you need to hide. But the main thing is the bushwhack ability when you're active as a bush is it does a lot of direct damage when someone sneaks up on you. So generally you want to like hug corners and pillars when you're a bush. Somebody comes close to you and you can just chop them for a huge amount of their health. I feel like this one, in terms of overall escape mechanisms, probably comes in at about an A tier, mostly because if you're at the end game in the final moments where this one's most likely going to be used, where you know there's going to be enemies around, it can become a liability. You just kind of like walking around kind of trolling, but it can have its moments and its niche moments where it's super funny to use. But in terms of overall competitiveness, I think it's going to fall a couple of tiers short. The next one is Barrel Roll. This is the default one that you start the game with. It's just a really good escape mechanism. You just go into a barrel and start rolling away. You do, though, need to be careful because if you come, into contact with any sort of units, whether they're allies or enemies, the barrel will break and you will be released from it. You can use it to chase down people. You can use it to run away. It's very multi-purposed. It's generally just a very solid option. So we're going to leave it here onto the A tier. The next one that we've got here is the time. Just want to get the exact name of this correct. The Bottled Time. This one will give you cooldown reduction. This is a 5 keybind. It's really good for team battles. So this is like one of the best items you can get, in the final moments. The only downside is that you're limited on where you can stand. So if you're standing in one spot, you're going to get stunned a lot. A lot of players are focusing on crowd control abilities. So this one, because of the limitation of where you need to stand, can be really detrimental. So it's going to bring it down a couple of tiers. It's still a solid pick overall. The next one we've got here is Keg Legs Cannonade. This is also a 5 keybind. This will just periodically start summoning circles on the ground that will start blasting away at people. It can be really good if you're, you got to get away, you got to zone people away from something, and you just want to be able to escape. So it's definitely very solid, although again, limited range. It's probably just overall going to feel about the same, maybe a bit better. It might be a bit better, I think. It causes a lot more chaos than the other options. You can just drop it down and move away and get the value as opposed to the Bottled Time where you've got to stay inside of it. I'm going to say it's a little bit better. Maybe we'll move this later on. The chickens. So this is just summons 3 chickens that chase people. These are really good because they can soak enemy skill shots and crowd control abilities. So if they're trying to land sort of any abilities on you, you can soak them with these chicken hits. It'll keep them in combat. It will stop them from drinking. So if you do damage to somebody when they're drinking, it'll stop them from healing. It's actually surprisingly effective, but they are limited range. In the later game, when people have max level AoE, they get pretty much one tap killed, so they end up falling off pretty hard. Maybe we should bring Bushwhack down a tier. We'll leave it there. This one's a tough one for me. I want to put it somewhere between B and A because early game I think it's really good, but as you scale up later and later, it gets a bit worse. And remember, these are one-time use. You can only use these one time on that 5 keybind. We're now moving into a couple of the offensive abilities here. Actually, this might be in a utility build. I'm trying to remember the exact name. Explosive Caltrops. So this is the one where you can disengage away from your area. So you want to make sure that you're facing away from the direction that you want to move so that you move the opposite direction. And it puts a slow on the ground. So it's like a hunter disengage that puts a slow on the ground. It's very effective. You really want high mobility. So this is a great utility spell to have into the late game for that type of avoidance. It's not, the absolute best, but I would say that it's definitely solid. We're going to put it up onto the A tier. Here we've got an offensive ability. This is the Earthbreaker. This one's not great. The only nice part about it is that it does crowd control. It will stun enemies when you hit them with it, which is really nice. It's a really slow channel. It's really good early game at gathering mobs, killing mobs, and AoEing them really hard. It can be very hard to land. You generally need to combine this with something, whether it's a mobility spell to get on top of somebody or a grip mechanic to get them on top of you. You generally need a combo with this. And because it's combo limited, I think that makes it a bit worse, but it does have a stun, so we're going to put it onto the A tier. I'm wondering if this list is just going to end up everything on the A tier. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not, right? Fey Form. This is a great utility spell. This is going to go in your 3 or your 4 keybind. The main advantage of this is that it can remove crowd control, and it will provide damage reduction and high mobility. So it makes you tankier, move faster, and get out of crowd control. This is one of the best ones that you can get in the game, in my opinion. Where it's either S or God, and we might shift it up onto God here in a moment. The next one we've got, which is another amazing utility spell, which is the Stealth. This is probably the best one in the game because regardless of rank, you are going to really feel the power of this one. You're going to be able to just jump away from combat and escape to safety really easily. So I'm putting this onto God tier. The fact that it blinks you away, puts you in stealth, you can juke people with it. It's good at any rank. It's really good at any point in the game in terms of escaping. It lets you get on top of people to engage with certain spells. It lets you get away from certain spells. It's definitely God. Here we've got the Fire Twirl. This is by far the best ability in the game when it comes to offense. The main reason for that is because it's just, you don't really have to land it. It's just going to increase your movement speed. You're going to start spinning around, AoEing. You're going to kill mobs easily early game, kill players easily early game. You don't really need to have any skill. You can use it as an escape. You can use it as an engage as well, on top of doing some of the most high guaranteed damage in the game. This is easily like the best offensive ability that you're going to get. So imagine stealthing in, Fire Tornado cleaving everybody, or stealthing away, and then you can Fire Tornado to escape. It really gives you the whole package with really good guaranteed damage. Here we got the Gnomish Gravity Pad. This is a really good one, although it's a one-time use because it's on your 5 keybind. It puts a jump pad down. I'd say that's probably better in duos when you've got some teammates to use. The other downside is that enemies can use it. So when you jump on your jump pad and jump away, enemies can also use it. So it's not like the barrel where if you only have the barrel, you're going to get away from the target faster. But you got no projectiles. You can also double jump with this. When you jump off the jump pad, you can press spacebar again and get extra distance. And if people don't know that, you're going to get an extra jump ahead of them. In terms of 5 keybinds, I'd say that this one is probably better than the barrel though overall, especially in duos. I think that you can get really across the map. In terms of distance, you're gonna get way further than the barrel, and if you're using that double jump tech, you're probably gonna be able to get away from other players as well. I think that is probably gonna be on the nest here. I really liked it from my own personal experience playing it. Next one here is the Oil Spill, and I've lost track of my little list here for this one. This one, I think it just puts oil in front of you. It's not really that great. I've personally not liked this one too much as far as 5 keybinds are concerned. It's not as good as the Snowman. Basically, the Snowman is just another snare on the ground. I'm gonna put this one on like C tier. I have not been liking this 5 escape. It just hasn't really felt too impactful or powerful. Holy Shield. This is a really high skill cap ability. It's going to launch a shield in front of you, and then you can explode it while it's away from you for extra damage. So you can throw it out, get a double hit, and it will boomerang back in. It feels really satisfying when you're able to execute on it, but it's way more skill dependent than the Fire Tornado, and it doesn't have any crowd control. So it's really skill dependent, no crowd control. It has decently low cooldown, so you can use it quite a lot. I'm going to probably put it on like A tier, but it's a really high skill cap in relative to these other ones in terms of landing damage. So if you're high ping, it's going to be tough to use. The Hunter's Chains here, this is basically Death Grip. This is a really good one if you got an engage build. So if you got the Earthbreaker, or if you got maybe a Searing Axe and you've got like melee attacks, you can combo this utility with those melee attacks, and it'll be really good. You'll be able to jump in on top of people, pull them out from their group. I think that this is probably going to be like an S tier in terms of utility. I really like this one. It's also not really hard to land. You just basically have to be facing the guy, and it's going to like auto latch it on, as opposed to some of the other more skill dependent abilities. The Lightning Bulwark, this is one that lets you block an attack. This can be really good late game, but it's really high skill cap. You got to see the enemy channeling their timing, but it can be really good for denying crowd control. So if an enemy is going to use this tornado to try and stun you, you can block it as through the air, absorb it, soak some movement speed, and then get on top of them and take them out. For me, I think the Bulwark is actually really good. Just in general, for almost any build, it's really good multi-purpose. I'm going to put it up onto S tier. The Manosphere, this one is crazy good at early game, late game. You can charge it up, so if you hold down the bind, it'll charge and get stronger, and it will just blast a ton of mobs in front of you, one-shotting them. The main advantage of this is that you can either quick shot it to get the knockback, because when it hits a target, it knocks them back, and you can use it as an escape mechanism or stun them to hold them in place, or you can charge it up like Samus's attack from Super Smash Brothers and just absolutely destroy people. I've really liked this one. I'm putting it up onto the God tier because it brings you crowd control, has multi-purpose use, it's good at low and it's good at high. It's definitely it's going to be a God tier. The Mechano Hog, this is one that's better in duos. It's going to summon a motorcycle that your partner can actually get on with you, and you can speed away, and then you can activate another keybind that will shoot it in a straight line from where you're going, and it'll explode on anybody that hits. It's super satisfying, nice little getaway. Compared to the other options, obviously barrel roll, you're not gonna be able to team up. I also think it lasts longer than the barrel roll, and you don't need to worry about like the getting hit by anything. So it definitely makes it better than the barrel roll. We're gonna have to like organize this so it's like utility with utility and damage with damage, so we can really get this. I don't think that this Cannoneer is better than the Mechano Hog. So if it's on the left here, I think it's better. If it's on the right, I think it's worse. And we'll try and get this as close to as we can. In terms of like utility to damage. All right, the Parrot. Now, I've only got to use him a couple times. Basically, summons a little parrot that's going to slow your target. He can be useful in 1v1, especially when the ending storm fight is like you're just running out of circle, drinking and trying to dodge each other, and he might be the difference maker, but it doesn't really have like super big impact. So for me, I think he's probably going on the B tier with the chickens. The Quaking Leap. This one, it sucks because you can't control it. The only advantage of this is that it's mobility. It'll shoot you in a line up in the air forward and then crash down moving forward. You can't control that. It's really impossible to land. You've got to basically likely already have somebody stunned up. It's probably one of the hardest abilities to kind of get used to predicting where it lands. It's just nice because it's mobility. So if you see this one, you'd probably rather have stealth or Fey, but it's mobility. So we're going to put it onto A tier. I think the mobility of this does make it pretty nice, but I think the Caltrops is better. You can more determine where you're going to go. You get the slow, but it does stun, so it's probably fair that it's in here with the Caltrops on the A tier. Repel. Now this one is really good, particularly because it counters the fire whirl. So if somebody starts tornadoing on you, you can use Repel to start channeling it. It'll silence them and knock them away from you, and you can basically counter that mechanic. And many people are doing that, right? They're playing the blinks, they're getting on top of people tornadoing. So Repel can be good just for those reasons. So I'm going to put Repel up here with the shield. I think it's probably better than the chains, honestly. I feel like having engage with this and then having a blocking mechanic is better. If you don't get engage, you can use the Hunter's Chain basically to compensate for not getting offensive engage. Okay, we've got the fake chest. So this will summon in a fake chest to bait people to loot it, basically. This can be funny in moments. I have seen it work sometimes where you put it down. It's kind of just like Super Mario or Mario 64 where you put down one of those fake blocks, they walk into it and they blow up. But there's time for people to escape, so it's not really that great. I'm gonna put it here. This is on your 5 keybind. This is the Rhyme Arrow. This is nice if you got bad ping. It's just going to give you automatic poke damage. It can be really good when you're fighting somebody who has no ranged attacks because you can just outrange them, poke them, stop their drink with it. It's just guaranteed damage. It's basically just going to be value at almost all times. So I'm going to put it up here on the S tier. I don't think we have any offensive abilities on the S tier yet, but we also haven't got to them yet. So Rhyme Arrow for me is going to be S tier. Searing Axe, really low range. It's really only good at the beginning of the game where you can kind of cleave, triple stacks of mobs. Mobs tend to show up in groups of 3. So you can farm with this really good. It's definitely one of the best that you can get early game. But late game, if you didn't get any mobility, it's usually probably combined best with Quaking Leap. So you can Quaking Leap, stun somebody, then landing, that's really tough. And then you can knock them up with the Searing Axe. It's a fun one visually, but I don't think it's actually that good. Its early game, though, is probably carrying it. So I'm probably going to put it up onto the A tier for now. In terms of offense overall. Searing Axe here. Oh, we got the Earthshaker here as well. They're very similar in terms of what they do. They can be a decent combo together for just big AoE damage, but you're going to need some engage like the Hunter's chains to be able to get in range to use them. what is this? The swirling slash. This is like one of the best items in the game, and I'm trying to remember the name of it here because I'm spacing out on the name of it exactly. This one is slicing winds. So this is another charged attack like the Manosphere. So you can hold it down and then you can just whirl in. It's really good because it gives you mobility to engage or escape. It does a lot of damage, and it's not really super difficult to land. So for me, I want to put it probably with S tier with the Rhyme Arrow. It's probably better than the Rhyme Arrow because it gives you mobility. So the Rhyme Arrow is going to be a little bit lower. But it is really good for any sort of combos. Smoke Bomb, this is a 5 keybind. This is just going to put a cloud of smoke and allow you to go into stealth, and your teammates to go in stealth. So it's got the benefit of aiding your allies as well in duos. It's not just like only a solo escape, which is really nice. The stealth can be really good. I haven't, but I don't really see it used a ton. You know, is it really not better than the barrel though? I feel like it's got to be better than the barrel because it's one of the best like in combat options. So I'm going to put it above the ambush. It's in the late game team fight stages, it's really good. But doesn't give you any escape, right? It puts a cloud of smoke and you're stuck there and you have to stay there. But it can be good for setting up a big AoE ability. So if you have other AoE abilities like the Earthbreaker, you can combine with that and it's going to give you a lot of damage. This is Snowdrift. This is just going to be a snare on the ground. This can actually be good in the Flame Tornado if people are playing a lot of those builds, which I think they are because I think they're just overall some of the highest value. So if you get a Snowdrift, it can actually be a pretty decent counter to that. You can just activate it. You can sometimes just repel, silence them, and then go Snowdrift and get a huge amount of damage out back onto them. Where are we going to put this in terms of utility though? The thing is it doesn't give you mobility, and you really want mobility out of your utility spell. I think it's probably better than Quaking Leap, or maybe it's close. I think the mobility of Quaking Leap might be better. It's somewhere in with Quaking Leap. It's not stupendous. Maybe even we put it down here. I'm going to put it on B. The Snowman. This is the God tier. This is the God tier 5. It's just going to be putting a giant skating rink on the ground that just snares people. If they're using stealth or flame tornadoes, they're not able to really get around. It totally impedes them. It's easily the best like finale fight thing. It's not an escape mechanism. So you're planning to have the Snowman for the finale fight moment, or this like, oh my God, we're going to lose if we don't do something. It's just really good. It's basically reverse mobility also. It just snares everybody away so you can actually escape. I think this one is like way better than the oil one. It's just way more surface area that it's going to be able to cover. And because of that, I think it's much, much, much better. This ability here, the Star Bomb, I hate this one. It's a really slow channel, and sometimes it's weird to aim. It basically goes right in front of where your character is facing. So you have to pay attention to which direction you're facing, and you have to sit there and channel it before it goes off. So you're like in melee range channeling a spell, like you're gonna get stunned, knocked, sphered, root 10 different ways before this thing actually goes off. It can be okay at killing low level mobs, maybe, but if you don't have some type of combo with this, I think it's not good. I'm putting it down on the bottom here. We got the steel traps. This is they're so OP. They're so OP because everybody's playing these like jump on top of you type of builds. You can just lob these traps, and what they do is they come in a U circle behind you. It'll just drop 3 of them on the ground, or I think it's more than 3. It might be like 5 of them. And then if anybody walks in them, they get rooted. So you can like quickly 360 turn your character around when somebody's charging at you, drop them behind you. They'll charge into them, you root them, and you can just set up everything. This is easily one of the God tier utilities. If you can get this with a mobility one, like this combo, the stealth and the trap, it's really gnarly, really gnarly. The elemental, this one sucks. I'm just gonna be honest. It just doesn't feel like it does a lot of damage. It feels pretty weak in comparison. It's called the Storm Archon. It basically channels into 3 different elemental types and then goes on a really long cooldown. It's a longer range than the Star Bomb, so I'm going to say it's better than the Star Bomb, but I've really seen not a lot of people succeeding with this one. It doesn't really look that strong. This one is like a Plunderstorm shield. It's basically going to put a boat on your head, and you can use this in like last case measures, run into the storm for a second. It gives you a little bit of a movement speed. It does block an ability. So it's got to be on the same tiers. It's got to be better than barrel basically because it's basically a barrel plus all these extra effects. Where are we going to put this? Probably somewhere with Bush. It's kind of one of the more cheesier, memeier ones. Toxic Smackerel. This guy is basically a melee range ability, so it's already bad. Doesn't really CC. It puts a dot on the target, which can be good for stopping them from drinking or something, but you got to get close. It doesn't do any damage. This one's better than the Star Bomb because it's instant at least, but it's not very good at all. Slicing Winds. This is S tier. This thing it's Cyclone from Arena into Plunderstorm. It's going to be a skill shot stun that's ranged pretty fast and lets you set up everything in your kit. This is like one of the best ones that you can get by far. In my mind, it's just so good. It is so good. And those are my initial thoughts of the Plunderstorm, the abilities, breaking it down to offense, utility. These are like the god tier. You want to try and get these at all costs. These ones aren't bad as well if you have to combine them with this, because you're not always going to get the perfect build, and then so on as they move down the list. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.